Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. In the 2024 FIDE World Rapid and Blitz Championship, something like something breaking happened. Now, first of all, we know that the FIDE World Rapid and Blitz Championship is a very high-level tournament, and it's really important, actually. There are many players, including the world's strongest player Magnus Carlsen and many more players. But the breaking news is that recently, actually just today when I'm recording this video, Magnus Carlsen quits Rapid and Blitz Championship for a very strange reason. Now, Grandmaster Magnus Carlsen will no longer participate in the 2024 FIDE Rapid and Blitz Championships or the FIDE World, I just said all of them, after a dress code disagreement with FIDE. He finishes the Rapid with a 5 out of 8 score and will not defend his double crown in Rapid and Blitz this year, which means we are guaranteed to have new champions. But this doesn't mean that he can't fight for example, the third place, the second place. I mean, 5 out of 8, he might still have some chances, or to get into the top 6, for example, at least to get some money. And actually, during this whole tournament, he has been wearing jeans. But the tournament says that it has to follow their dress code, and Magnus and FIDE had a disagreement on the dress code problem. And let's take a look at the more detailed information. Now, we're going to skip all of this because it has nothing to do with our breaking news today. First, let's see. The chief arbiter Alex Holozak explained that after round 7, Magnus received a $200 fine for wearing jeans, and when given an ultimatum to change before round 9 or not be paired, he refused. Holozak clarified that Carlsen was not kicked out of the tournament and could play in round 10, but the Rapid World Champion had already made his decision by then. And speaking to International Master Levi Rosman for Take, Magnus said he was ready to change for the next day, but not in between rounds during the tournament. He will be leaving for somewhere where the weather is a bit nicer and will no longer play the remaining rounds or attend the Blitz section. He put it in clear and strong terms. He said that my patience with them was not very big to begin with, and it's okay, they can enforce their rules. That's fine by me, and my response is that fine. Then my out, then, and blah, blah, blah. He was actually really, what's the word? He actually, he agreed to change into a more formal kind, to follow the dress code of this tournament, but not changing between the rounds because probably for some reasons, probably it might take some time or he just simply doesn't want to. I mean, he did say that he is going to change for tomorrow, and I think that is also fine, but for FIDE here, they decided to give him a fine, $200 fine. I mean, Magnus can still play on, but instead he just decided for himself that he is going to quit. Not only the Rapids, the rest of the 2 games, but also the whole Blitz Championship. Here, Magnus said, I said I'll change tomorrow, but they said you have to change now, and it became a matter of principle for me, so here we are. Honestly, I'm too old at this point to care too much. If this is what they want to do, I'll probably set off to somewhere where the weather is a bit nicer. Carlsen also told NRK, the way I feel it right now, I am at full war with FIDE, and yes, it has come to a point where I have been involved in this for many years, and I have no desire to have anything to to do with them. So I apologize to those at home. It may be a stupid matter of principle to have, but I don't think it is very fun when it has to be like that. FIDE published an official statement embedded below where they stressed that the dress code ensures the values of professionalism and fairness for all players. They also wrote that the dress regulations are drafted by the FIDE Athletes Commission, which is composed of professional players and experts, and that the rules have been in place for years and are well known to all participants. As the statement and Halazek confirmed, Grandmaster Lana Pomunyachi also received a $200 fine at the start of the day for wearing sports shoes, but he changed after the warning. Posts on Twitter or X have called attention to other players who wore pants that looked like jeans and were not penalized. However, Grandmaster Zavin Adrishian, who said he was wearing trousers, not jeans. This is all really confusing, basically, and many other things happened. For Magnus, maybe it was out of a combination of frustration of how he played in this tournament and also his general attitude towards cooperation. This is what FIDE CEO Emily Sudovsky said. Now, he maybe thought that, actually there's also some other opinions by other people. Some say that Magnus just simply he doesn't want to pay the fine, and also he is kind of frustrated with all of these dress codes rules. But also some people say that he didn't have a great tournament because he only has 5 out of 8 and he has no chances to get the champion, and he might be frustrated, and this is his way to try to end this tournament, to try to end this nightmare. So he wants he wants the other people to give him let him pay the fine, warn him, and then he is not going to do anything, and he just quits the tournament. This is the other people's guesses. I mean, both kind of make sense, but I'm not sure which one is true. It's your own opinions, basically. And also Magnus in this tournament, besides the dress codes, everything, he didn't play a really well tournament. In the first 8 games he played, he actually lost. I think he lost one of the games, if I'm not mistaken here. One of the games he lost to Russian Grandmaster, 18-year-old Grandmaster Denis Lazavik. Now, let me just quickly take a look. Okay, so in the first 8 games, Magnus won 3 games, drew 4 games, and lost 1 game. And this loss, he lost in the 5th round to Denis Lazavik from Russia. And also, it reminds me of when Magnus also lost to an 18-year-old. I'm not going to say who it is. Some of you guys might already guessed who that is. And also, at that time, Magnus lost to that 18-year-old Grandmaster, and then something strange started to happen. This might also be a coincidence, but I'm just saying, losing to 18-year-olds, whenever Magnus loses to 18-year-olds, something strange happens. Alright, but anyways, Magnus, he lost this game against Denis Lazavik, making his tournament even harsher. Because before this, if he had won, he is going to be 3.5 point out of 5, which is still fine, basically. But after losing this game, he just simply cannot grab the cup. He'll at least at this stage, he will never become the champion in the 2024 World Rapid Chess Championship. But he still hasn't he can still go for the champion in the Blitz session, but he didn't do that. He just quit. Alright, but anyways, now we're done with this dress code thing, and let's jump into this game real quick, which is the game between Denis Lazavik versus Magnus Carlsen. With the black pieces, Magnus's. Alright, and Denis started with d4, Magnus played d5, and c4 was played. c6, takes, and this is the Slav defense, the exchange variation. It's actually kind of solid. Knight c3, knight f6, bishop f4, knight c6, e3, a6. This is all theory. Rook c1, bishop f5, knight f3, e6, queen b3, and rook a7. Now, actually, rook e7 is a very dubious move in my words, because there are more ways to defend this pawn, or you can simply just like sacrifice the pawn. Probably Magnus thought that he doesn't want to go queen d7 to defend, because there's like ideas like, I don't know, like knight a4, knight b6 ideas coming up. Also, like knight e5 might also be a problem. And Magnus probably, his other thoughts were that he wanted to make the position more complex and go out of the opponent's preparation, and he played rook a7. But this is like kind of dubious, because putting a rook on a7 just looks like not where it should belong. In the game, Lazavik played bishop e2, just developing the pieces, no problems with that. Bishop e7 and short castle, knight d7. Now this is again back into a very normal game, all standard theories. Knight a4, going for the dark squares. Also, you can, for example, for white to go bishop g3 to avoid some g5 ideas. And like the bishop, also in the future you'll have like knight h4 ideas, or like f4 ideas if you get the pieces out of the way. There are many possibilities here. Bishop g3 is suggested, but knight a4 was played in the game, which is not that bad. But now there's g5, and the bishop has either to go to g3 or go to e5. In the game, bishop e5 was played, which is not as good as bishop g3. And this also shows that why you should have gone bishop g3 first, because now after bishop g3, if black goes g5, first of all, you have to know that it doesn't really attack anything. And now, for example, h3, for white, you just prevent everything from happening. Also here, you can go h3 first, and if g5 happens, you can get the bishop back to g3 and will turn into the same position. But this is not a big deal actually in the game. Knight a4, g5, bishop e5, short castle was played. Now actually short castle is a really risky option by Magnus, because he does have this g-pawn pushed up the board already, and the king might be a little bit weak. What he should have done instead is actually just to take this bishop with either of the knights, and it should be a game on like to trade off the minor pieces, and it should be slightly better for black. But in the game, short castle was played, giving white some chances. Now Lazavik quickly retreated the bishop back to g3, knowing that he needs to maintain the bishop pair, to keep the bishop pairs on the board, and also gain control of the dark squares. In the game, h5 was played. Magnus is just going all in, and he is starting to push the pawns, threatening to trap the bishop. And now h3 was played, creating a square for the bishop to retreat back. And in the game, g4 was played. Now takes. This might look a little bit scary for white at first sight, but then you just calculate everything and you notice that most of black's pieces are on the queen side. And it's not that easy for black to really get all of the power onto the king side. And you see that by pushing off these two pawns, even though it opened up very many files for black to create some like attacking ideas on white's king, but it also, on the other hand, offered white some attacking plans as well, because your pawns are pushed way too up the board. Your king is without any protectors, no pieces or no pawns are in front of your king, so nothing really protected, and it also gives white some chances. In the game, knight h2 was played, attacking the g4 pawn, knight f6, queen d1, and suddenly we just realized that this g4 pawn is having some trouble here. It might just fall, actually. Knight e4 was played, but now bishop f4 was played. Actually, Lazavik is playing really well here. He is not in a hurry to take on g4, because it is a pawn that will fall anyways. Because after bishop g4, there's knight takes g3, and after f takes, white will have this very bad pawn structure, and black will also have this doubled, this bishop pair. Now, reaching this position is actually kind of ideal for black, and white doesn't really want to allow that. And in the game, bishop f4 was instead played, and threatening to take on g4 on the next move. In the game, bishop g5 was played, offering a trade of dark square bishops, and now basically you just have to start taking the pawns and everything. Bishop g4, bishop f4, e takes f4, swapping the pieces off the board. Now this is the first mistake in the whole game. Actually, I mean, king g7 is a very, like, reasonable move at first sight because you're, like, trying to reroute the rooks to the h file or something, but it will immediately face some problems, which did happen in the game. And instead, black should have just played something like queen h4 to gain some control of the important squares, and after bishop takes, e takes f5, knight f3, for example. I don't know. Like, the queen can defend many important squares here, preventing any checks from white's queen, and probably black is still gonna be fine. But after king g7, which was played, Lazavik, like, immediately played bishop f5, finding the chance, the best reply, and after e takes f5, two knights versus two knights, but we see that basically it is just a game of whose king is safer. If here your king is safer, then you're gonna win because your opponent's king is just way too, like, weak here. And it's obvious, like, to see whose king is safer. White's king is safer, black's king is way too open. The pawns are already gone in front of him, and we know that now we can actually see, like, the bad thing or the bad side of pushing the g pawn and the h pawn too far up the board without other pieces, like, support. In the game, g3 was first played, very calm. You could also go knight f3 actually to first of all gain some control of these dark squares, but g3 also makes sense. Rook h8 was played, but now there's just knight f3, and white will start going up with king g2, rook h1 to start attacking the king. In the game, rook a8 was played, and you basically now see that rook a7 is a very useless move. It only defends the b7 pawn, but it's actually not necessary to do it that way, and now black needs to waste another move to bring the rook back into the game. But white is just showing that he is faster. King g2 first played, queen f6, knight c3, rerouting the knight back, also offering a trade of this very strong e4 knight. You see that white is using his not so great knight to trade off this very great knight in black's territory, so it makes sense. In the game, rook d8 was played, defending the d5 pawn, and queen d3 was played. Of course, you're not going to take on e4 right now because that'll just be losing a pawn after, like, here the d4 pawn will lose. You're not in a hurry to take on e4, but you just play queen d3, something like this, to get your pieces to the best squares. Rook h5 was played, trying to double the rooks on the h file, but after rook h1, queen h6, queen e3 was played. Now, queen e3 might not be the best response here. Rook takes h5, queen takes, and knight h4 would have been the best outcome because now you're threatening, like, you're putting a lot of pressure on the f5 pawn, that is also the d5 pawn. I mean, f3 is also coming. This is actually really good for white because f3 is kind of unstoppable, and either f5 or d5 will lose on the next move. But instead of playing that way, Lazavik here played queen e3, which is not that bad. White is still better, much better. And after rook h8, here rook takes h5, and queen takes, here knight h4 was played, and basically knight h4 just blocks this whole h file. The main problem is that black doesn't have a g-pawn. If black were to have a g-pawn, then there are still some g5 ideas to kick away this knight. But unfortunately, there's no g-pawn here. f5 is a weakness. d5 is under attack right now. It's all falling apart for Magnus. You see, actually, both sides didn't really do anything big. There are no tactics. Just basically, the position went worse and worse for Magnus and better for Lazavik. Knight f6 was played, like, forced to retreat the knight back to defend, but now after rook h1, threatening actually to, at some point, to move away the knight and, like, discovered attacks. King f8 was played, but actually this is just a blunder right away. Magnus here still has 5 minutes left on the board, but I mean, the position is already really hard for him to play. His best option is to go king g8 here and try to create some, like, way, like, first of all, to avoid any checks of the knight, so there are no, like, discovered attacks or discovered checks. No way for white to win any material. But instead, in the game, Magnus here, I think he is just falling apart completely. He played king f8, but just simply misses knight g6. Oh, wait a second. In the game, knight g6 was not played. But Lazavik instead played queen d3. Okay, but knight g6, I thought this will just win the game really easily. I mean, white is just gonna be up a full like half piece. I don't know. Probably both sides missed this very easy tactic because it's not that hard to see knight g6 in my opinion. But queen e3 is still fine, but not winning immediately. And here knight e7 was played, but again there's knight g6. And finally here Lazavik realized that there is this knight g6 move and immediately played this brilliant move. And here Magnus instead, he just took with the f-pawn, but now the queen is off the board, and this is just completely winning, right? Takes, but like, I mean, if white will if these two knights were on, for example, e4 and c4, and there are no b pawns or f pawns to attack these two knights, the game will still be a game on. But unfortunately, neither of these squares are outposts because white will always be able to reach these squares with the pawns. And it's just simply game over. Let's see how Lazavik ended this game. And king f7, knight g1, starting to reroute the knight. h4 takes, rook takes, knight h3, king g6, queen b3, attacking the pawns, knight c6, attacking the d4 pawn, but just simply ignores it and takes on b7. Knight takes on d4. Make sure there are no counterplay for black, and you just start taking the pawns. Rook g4, no checkmate ideas, and you just defend the knight and start pushing the pawns. Defend the pawns first, and then now start pushing the pawns. Okay, there's another knight, and now basically you just start pushing the passed pawns. It's unstoppable, and here after queen b5, Magnus resigned. He lost this game, and now he is only 2.5 out of 5, which meant that he has no chance to become the champion of the 2024 FIDE World Rapid Chess Championship. And after this game, actually already, in the first 4 rounds, Magnus drew 3 rounds and only won 1 game. Actually, I mean, he is not in his best form in this tournament. But I mean, he still has some chances to fight for 3rd place or some other top rankings. But instead, after this game, he drew a few, won a few, and then the dress code thing happened, and then he quit the whole tournament, including the blitz section. And I mean, this is kind of this is just a very breaking news that we're not gonna see in a few decades, I think. And yeah, I mean, quitting a tournament just because of dress code. I mean, it's just really complicated, I think. But I mean, even though Magnus, he quitted this and he didn't play well in this tournament, I think most of us still knows that he is the strongest player in the world. I mean, every person sometimes have highs and lows, ups and downs, and probably Magnus just is coming to his downs or lows here, but most of the times we know that he is winning the tournaments and everything. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed this game as well as this video, and thank you for watching. Please subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!